How's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Sorry for the late start. I came home and it was kind of like that scene from when Troy walks in from Community and there's fire going and he's bringing the pizza boxes in. That's kind of what I walked into tonight. What's up, Drake? How are you? Yep, Drake, you got first. What's up, Spooner? What's up, Vlad? Good evening. Yeah, I was just telling them I walked into a scene where, like, I literally walked in my house. I had a work event afterwards, and what's up, Ben? I walked in my house, and, like, I see a naked baby streak past me, and then my daughter's naked running, and I look at my wife, and she's just, like, flustered, and she's like, what's going, like, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to help. So I was able to put my daughter down to bed, but my wife, like, I got out of my daughter's bedroom, and literally she was, like, in bed already sleeping. I think she had a day for herself, so thought I'd put up a meme to try to get a little humor to the situation. Obviously, it was a rough day on the market as a whole, and I know a bunch of people were feeling their feelings, and that's totally understandable. And watching money come and go is not fun. So I feel you guys. What's up, Fish? I was just telling everybody I had a work event tonight, and so I had finished my work event, and I walked to my house, and dude, 3.5 down percent today. SPY's gonna tank bad when it does. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big drop. If you guys, I mean, just so people have a little bit of that's a good amount, right? That's a good amount that it's down. So, anyone wants to complain about the market, you're more than welcome to. Alright, so, I guess the first thing we should cover is the SPY, right? Because obviously that was a show. Hey, Anon, shills are fudding the exec's scheduled tax share selling again, like 100K shares. Yeah, I mean, so just so you guys know, like a lot of the times they'll get issued shares, and what they'll do is they'll sell them just to offset like gains. So, you know, it's a tax strategy, and some of the executives do that. I mean, I can tell you, I think Yanov's got like now like 1 million shares of Aterian, so he has every incentive to try to make the company go up. There's a couple people who, like the new COO is, he's got like 500,000 shares. So a lot of these guys, the reason why the shares outstanding on Aterian's higher is because they were vested. They have I think 3 years vesting period from what I read. And so what's going to end up happening is the insider float is going to go ahead and go up. Doesn't affect the overall float. So, but yeah, like all that happens is that gets added to insider ownership. So it doesn't really count against the free float. Spooner asked, didn't the fund recently increase their position like from 100K to a few million. Yeah, it was Hudson, I think. They did it a couple weeks ago, though. That was, like, reported. So, if we were going to go here and put ATER in, yeah, like, it's just right now getting pushed down probably into a spring area, and then we'll go from there. Like, we've had it happen before. If you actually go over back in this area right here, which you probably can't even see because I have so much crap in here. But we hit this spring here and then started going up. Right? Yeah, it was Hudson that did it. I think they went from like 100,000 shares to like 1 point something million. So they increased their position after it already ran up. Because the date they reported was on the 16th of May, which if you go back, May 16th is right here. Right? So, and they bought their shares at 343 as their average. So they bought 1 million shares this day. Right? And so they're actually down right now, like $1 a share. Carl says the S&P is going to dip harder and cause liquidity issues and margin calls. It should help Aterian and other heavily shorted stocks. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's kind of how margin calls typically work. You have collateral. Once your collateral goes, then, you know, the question is, did these guys... So I can tell you, at least for Citadel and a couple others, they are trying to basically get ahead of this by shorting the market. And I know that because I was going through the big shorts the other day, and I went down to see who has the largest amount of puts against the S&P. And I'll pull this up for you guys again. But there. So if you check this out, this is the highest amount of puts in, you know, so you add another set. So it's like 44 billion shorted against, not shorted, but excuse me, they have their net short over here. So that's like 17 billion short against there. They've got, right? Is that, are they already doing it? Do you add another 3 zeros on the end of this, or is it already there? Either way, it's a lot of money if you look at this. So if you look and say you've got Citadels here, and they're all net short the SPY. So depending on who's short, you know, which big guys are short, they're making money on the SPY going down. So it really depends. So some of the smaller funds might actually get margin called if they're not shorting the SPY. But I don't know if that's particularly, yeah. I'm thinking that they're making money with the SPY going down, probably to stave off margin calls. So, all right. So, Spooner says, I saw in the Discord that Elliott wave possibly failed. Is that true? I don't know much about Elliott waves. So, from what I saw, the Elliott wave for Aterian was supposed to move down into, like, the, I think, 240s, 250 range. Doesn't mean it can't go a little bit lower. You know, Elliott waves to me is kind of like reading, you know, like animal bones. Like, I know there's math behind it, and but it just seems like whenever people bring out Elliott waves, they tend to be these like huge predictions, and then the next thing you know, they'd never come true. So I would take it with a grain of salt. There's probably some truth to it, and there's probably some aspects that are dead spot on, and then there's going to be variations from here and there. So I don't do 100% Elliott waves, mainly because I that's not a thing that I ever was like, yeah, that's the most accurate way of calculating this out. Some people swear by it, other people don't believe in it. So you can fall in whatever camp you want. I haven't done enough homework to dismiss it utterly, but at the same time, from what I've at least gleaned and watched people do them, typically they're wrong, and they're wrong often. So I don't know if it's just the people that are doing the Elliott waves are wrong, or if how they're doing it is wrong, but it just seems to be inaccurate a lot of times. So if it says most people are hedging, I wouldn't count on margin calls like the smart money. Yeah, the smart money is basically the ones that are pushing down the stock, is my guess. Okay, what's up, Anon? Did you check what happened to Redbox and we still close green? Bullish. So they're trying to screw Redbox, is what I've seen. Like, you can't open options anymore on the stock. Basically, every broker's banded together and said, we're not letting this happen. So, here it is right here. It gapped up. Now, I told you guys, I thought it was going to fill this gap, and I don't think it quite did. Let me just zoom in to make sure. All right, the gap should be somewhere like 1373, and we only got up to like 1345 today. So I could see them covering tomorrow, getting up to that level just to fill the gap, and then heading down. In my opinion, I don't think there's enough money left to keep the squeeze going, especially if they take away the gamma component of it, which they're basically doing because it's the market and they're screwing over retailers, which is shocking, right? Brokers screwing over retailers. They would never, right? Yeah, like we all need new brokers. That's basically what it boils down to. Like, this entire thing has just shown me how corrupt and broken the system is. And like every broker, the fact that like their goal is basically to not have their customers make money because it costs them money if you win. That's not a good thing, and it's not a good business model. So yeah, but from what I see, you may close that gap, and then I think it's going to be a lot harder to squeeze when you don't have the gamma component. So I can take a look for you and see what the options chains look like, but you can only close now. And so when that happens, you've removed a key aspect out of a squeeze, which means that like they still may move, but at the same time, it's going to be a lot harder now than, you know. All right, so pulling up Redbox. Yep. They're doing something funky now. There's no open interest right now on on the brokerages. They're all just showing volume. What is going on? So are people closing them? Because this didn't look like this the other day. Something's weird here. I don't like this. I'll screenshot it so you guys can see. But this does not give me warm and fuzzies. This makes me think that retail's about to get screwed. Look at this. So instead of having open interest here, what they did was they basically shifted stuff over, but I don't think that's all the, like, they're basically like hiding how much open interest there is. Like, this feels dirty. Like, just looking at this reminds me of GameStop, and it reminds me of like them pulling the rug on retail by shutting down the buy side. Now, granted, on this time, they're shutting down both sides of the options trade. So you can't buy puts anymore either. So technically it's a little more fair, but like either way, I don't like that. It just feels dirty. I think Fidelity was still selling it. From what I understood, Fidelity at the end of the day was shut it off too. Okay, you're on Thinkorswim and you can see OI. Let me see something. I got to trade. We're going to do trade Redbox and see if you can still see the options chain. These numbers don't look the same. Okay, here we go. There are at least some. Let me screenshot for this for you guys so you can see what it looks like. This is not so much me focusing on one particular stock, but me showing you guys market-wise why brokerages are basically like not on your side and probably going to screw you over. All right, so we can at least see it over here. Just know that this is basically going in half, like 50-cent increments from 1. So this is 1, 150, 2, 250, 3, 354, 455, etc. Right? So the majority of the open interest is here. Now, their goal is going to be to get the stock price right down to probably around 9. If they can get that down to 9, they are going to just absolutely burn all this premium that's up here. And I hate to say this, but I feel like they're probably going to get it. Just based off of, you know. Jesus, my dog farted and it smells awful. Charlie, dude, come on. Kill somebody with that. Rough, dude. I need to let him out. He needs to poop. I did let him out before I came down, but he was running after deer, so, you know. All right. Yeah, don't blame the dog. Yeah, so Robinhood shut down options. Yeah. Sell, no buying. Yep, that's kind of what they did. More room outside than my grandmother always said. Yeah, so I just, you know, for me, I'm not feeling super confident about that. And, you know, to me, that looks like they're about to pull the rug. So you can hold and you can do whatever you want. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, but I'm telling you guys just to be on your toes, because if you want to look at some indicators, like, it was going really well until basically this part right here. And then you can see all of a sudden the CCI drop down. Your awesome oscillator is starting to now like kind of like teeter, and on your TTM squeeze you're starting to actually go down now. You can see on the RSI it was trying to curl up. You know, we still finished green today, but if they get a down day tomorrow, trying to basically yeah, if the volume starts dropping off, because obviously it's going to, because they're not going to have to hedge as much because there's no more options. This is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. So I'm still annoyed. I'm really annoyed with TD now, because I think TD was one of the first ones that shut this down, and TD forced me to sell a short at 16. I would be short right now at 16, and they made me actually close the position when it was like 17 a share, which I'm annoyed by. Because they basically gave me a time limit when I had to close the position, and it was back when it was up here. Yeah, if Redbox didn't squeeze, then retail would lose confidence in every other ticker squeezing. Like, I will stop trading. Are we supposed to just lose money? Yeah, that's what the brokers want you to do. You're not supposed to win. Like, legitimately. Like, you can watch a video from Anton Cronelli, or whatever his name is, and he explains to you your brokers are basically like the bad guys. And, like, here's an example, right? I'll give you a perfect example. Let's take Redbox as our example. So say you're retail traders, right? And you were like, bam, Redbox to the moon. So you bought in here at $8 a share, right? And typically with T+3, your broker is supposed to have your shares in your account by 3 days in, right? So that today plus 3. So let's take a look. So you bought them this day, right, at 8. So what they can do as a broker is they decide, okay, the stock's higher here, not going to buy the shares. Stock's still higher here, not going to buy the shares. Wow, this thing really ran up. So now what they do is they actually choose to fail to deliver. So they said, we're not buying the shares up here. That would lose us money. So what they do is they actually go back down and they say, it's a little closer, but no, not yet. So they're choosing to fail to deliver until the shares drop down. We'll say tomorrow it comes out, they run up a little bit, and then drop like a rock down to $8 a share. They could choose to close then. Or if they want to keep failing to deliver, what they'll do is they'll actually wait until, say, for example, maybe it gets down to 4, and you paper hand, you're like, listen, I can't do this anymore. The stock's going to nothing. So you sell. Well, you paid them, what was it, $8 a share for it, right? But you sold it 4. Well, do they give you back that difference? No, they keep that. They're incentivized for you to lose money. Like, legitimately, they are incentivized for you as a retail trader to lose money. And their goal is to try to keep new retail traders constantly coming into the market, and then they churn them out like this. Because it seems like whatever you do, you're making the wrong moves as a retail trader. It's because your broker's actually actively going against your own bets. Like, they might be the ones shorting, like, on and making sure that shorts have every opportunity to have more shares than they ever need, even if they don't even have those shares, because it incentivizes. When you align basically someone as like not a third party, and you incentivize them to and give them ways of making money off you losing, that's not a good system for fairness, or however, like, it's just not good. It's not good for retail. It's not good for the market. But this is how the markets work. They make money off your bid-ask spread. So, like, today, I was trying to get an order filled, right? So I hit buy at a limit thing, and it didn't fill. So then I tried to readjust it, and as soon as I adjusted it, there's something called slippage. And so I put in an order, and as soon as I put it in, I noticed the candle jump way down, and that's where I got my fill, and then it went really far up. And I'm like, ugh. And that happens all the time for retail and traders. Like, they're basically front-running your stuff. So if you put in, I need to buy the stock at $8.45, right? So we're down here at 8:45. I put in my order, right? And then the next tick, all of a sudden, it's $9. It just jumped hugely. I got my fill, though, at 8:45. You know, and this is the same thing if you buy if you buy through the market, right? Like, oh my God, like if you hit market order, you're going to get filled at the absolute worst spot, even though you're not supposed to. There's supposed to be like price improvement, all this stuff. It never happens. You get screwed. So like you should be using limit orders really, like when you're trading. And then you should make sure you hold fast to them and don't try, because slippage is definitely a real thing. And once again, not good for retail traders. All right. Hey, Anon. DTC IR got back to me today. I shared on the Discord in my response. How come they didn't write me back? I literally went on LinkedIn and started adding people because I'm like, yo, like, kind of like IR doesn't respond back to their clients or their, customers and shareholders. Yeah, I still haven't gotten anything back. It's a bunch of crap. They didn't write me back. Okay. So, let's go close this, and I'll go to the Discord real quick. I had 8-cent slippage on ATER yesterday. Yeah, like, that's unacceptable. Like, that's this kind of stuff that should not happen on any sort of market, yet it happens all the time. All right. Pulling up the Discord. Okay. Pulling up. There's a lot of questions that I'm realizing that I missed when I was out at my work event. I will have to go back and answer everybody's. Which holders are considered strategic investors? Insiders are Summit Partners, Bertrand, and Jan. By our calculation, there are more Class B shares than exist. Class B shares are owned by the LLC as DTC is up. C structure. We understand the 63 million shares are not the issue. The problem we're having is we add up all the 13 Fs and all right, I'm just pulling this up so you guys can see. So, and your first one was here. All right, so we've established then Summit, Bertrand, and Jan are the insiders, right? So let me go to the list. Did you guys already update it on Sheets? It's the wrong Sheets. I need this Sheets. All right, so Summit, Bertrand, and Jan. So they're saying that Neuberger is not a strategic partner. Or is Jan's Neuberger? Yeah. Okay. So, who's ready for Whiplash Friday? Yeah, it's probably gonna whiplash and or whipsaw back and forth. Like the SPY is just on the inner day. This is pretty violent. Like this doesn't look like a violent move, but like you're talking about billions of dollars here. Like just up, down, up, down, up, down. That was a pretty big drop. Back up. I don't want to mess with the sheets. Yeah, so like the one I made, I'll pull it up real quick for you. I was messing with this. All right, so I told you guys that I saw that there was the Class B and Jan Brothers. I don't actually see them listed in the insiders that were filed unless they're under some other name. So that's interesting. That means some of these are actually just institutions that hold a lot of shares. Which either way, it doesn't matter. It's just going to get added to the institutional ownership instead of the insiders. It just means that the float's not as locked up. That's all it means. But there still seems to be more institutional ownership for this. And yeah, they could be lending out shares. But like, I just want to see something real quick. So obviously this stock got hammered and there's no volume on it. Like it's like trading less than like 500,000 shares each day. But what I wanted to see was, what does the dark pool data look like for, and how much are they shorting it? Yeah. So it dropped the last 2 days, it looks like. But that's probably because the overall market was dropping. So SPY looks right for an algo. Aterian as well. Yeah. I mean, both, like, all these stocks are set up right now. And the question is, like, so I think I saw that SPY right now, their max pain is at like 415 because everyone went bearish. So the question is, do we get a melt up at the end of the day on Friday? I don't know. Like, it's one of these, you could roll a dice 1,000 different times and try to, we'd have no discernible information whether it's correct or not. So, it's something we got to figure out because, like, at some point there's going to be basically, a spot where it pushes down and then it just rebounds. I mean, that technically happened here. We had been going down, 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 down. We hit this low right here at like 380, and then it went all the way back up to like almost 420, right? And then we're right back down even lower. So this would be our dead cat bounce. All right, because this was basically like distribution, but this is our dead cat bounce. So we got our dead cat bounce here. So it wouldn't shock me to see 360 tomorrow, like as a low, and then pop back up at the end of the day. Maybe like the 380s, bounce back. It's hard to tell. Yeah, so like Jan only holds Class Bs, which means that you don't take them out. So that means that Bertram is an insider, right? But that means that MB Alternatives and Aterian, even though they're listed as insiders, they must be institutional. So that right there is about like 11 million shares on DTC. So now that we know this information, it'll be a little bit easier to kind of go out and figure it out. Because, that would basically mean that there is a little bit of a free float. It just, it's going to be slightly different because, like, obviously 53 million versus a 63 million, they only have a 10 million float. But it does look like institutional ownership is more than what the company has out there. So, yeah. What do you guys want to talk about? Go ahead. Talk about how the market's completely screwed up and screwing retail, because that's kind of how it works. And like for those of you guys, I actually sent something today because somebody was talking to me. We were talking about oh, here we go. I can pull it up for you guys. So I want you to take a look at this, right? And then this. Can I shrink that maybe? Maybe I can expand this way. It's like cutting it off for some reason. I guess that's as close as I can get right now. Look familiar? Yeah, appreciate it, Big Lebowski. Yeah, I'll jump into the DTC Discord or like the channel probably tomorrow morning, and we'll kind of just crunch those out now that we have a little bit more information. But I'm still annoyed they didn't write me back. So that. All right. So anyway, so you want to know what Smart Money's doing? So this is what Smart Money did. Smart Money took out their money in here, like here on Amazon. This is Amazon for the record. So Smart Money took their money out in waves up here at the top, and now said we're going to do a stock split, and then push the price all the way down. Right? So they got out. So now people are panicking, and they'll come back, and they'll when the stock gets back down here, like pre-pandemic levels, they'll start buying it again. But until then, they're just going to be like kind of free falling, and you're going to be like, huh. So what I want to remind you guys is this. So you know what Smart Money is doing, right? So Smart Money took their money out at the SPY at the peak, right? Now it's dumping down, just like you see on Wyckoff, right? If you put a Wyckoff underneath here, you can see them taking out their money, right? They had another pump up, and then we're coming down. And wait till the cliff, right? Yeah, so what's going to end up happening is once this cliff happens, everyone's going to freak out at like the end of the world. Like, you know, we've seen it before. It happens every like 10 years. So the market freaks out, it like overcorrects. But during that time, where does Smart Money put their money, right? You can't keep it in cash. I mean, you can, but you're losing out on inflation. So bonds right now usually take a hit when like the entire market crashes too. Like you would think bonds would be the safe place to put money, but it's not, because bonds typically crash when the entire market crashes. So where do you put your money? You have to rotate it somewhere, right? So if you rotate it, you're going to have to rotate it somewhere that's undervalued. Okay, so what's undervalued right now? Small, medium caps? You can make an argument for they would probably rotate, because right now they're not ready to put it back in the large caps. There's still more downside there. They want to wait till it kind of evens out. So what they'll do is they'll start rotating some money into the small, medium caps during the interim. So you could see a nice, like a nice little pump on some of these small caps at some point, because they're going to have incentive to basically, once they get in these things, and these things don't require a whole lot of liquidity to move. So, they could just buy, a couple like IWM or a couple of other individual stocks and start playing with these because they can make money in the meantime until they go back to their normal stuff. And they don't have to spend a whole lot of money just to move things around. Think about this. Aterian's entire market cap right now is what, 160-ish? 159? Sorry, 57? That's a drop in the bucket to a lot of these guys. They could buy up the entire float with a couple pennies of that their equivalent of pennies. So yeah, they can send these stocks to the moon without a whole lot of effort. It just depends on what they're interested in, what they're going to rotate it next. Them just putting money into the IWM and some of these other ETFs that, Aterian's not hugely held by ETFs, but even the small amount helps. Because a couple million shares of an ETF would be huge for Aterian, which has basically no volume right now. So, all right. So, Tom said to elect Yaniv or Sarah Liebel to Class 3 directors to serve until the 2025 shareholder stock owner meeting. Yeah, you can, I think, vote on that one, all shareholders. That would be interesting, though. I don't know if they count those, but that would be an interesting thing to have maybe everyone vote that has shares, encourage people to vote because they would at least have a good sense of, where their shares are coming from. They probably won't disclose that, but at the same time, that might give them a good idea. If you're not willing to, if you can't do FinTel, but you can vote, that would be huge, right? Wouldn't that be interesting if all the people who couldn't register with FinTel were able to vote, though, and at least be seen by the investor relation or the IR people? I think that'd be interesting. I don't know if it'd do anything, but at least they'd know the numbers. So that's one thing. All right, so let's see. So that news is out. For some people that wanted to know, yeah, the float did change for Aterian. It looks like it's probably around 67 million to 68 million. I think 68 was what was on the filings. So that did happen, and it was because they issued out insider shares, for a vesting period for employees. So I just want to at least people are in the know about that, right? Yeah, if they get 90 million votes on a stock that only has 68 million, that would be something, wouldn't it? I think that would go well with their investigation of short interest. And by the way, I at least write investor relations and said, the retail community is frustrated. It's been radio silence for the most part. And IR said, well, listen, Yaniv did talk about it during the, I said, listen, I understand that he said it during the earnings report, but at the same time, not everyone listens to the earnings reports like me and some of you. And they basically get their information from Twitter and some other places. And at this point right now, nobody's screaming from the rooftops that Yaniv had addressed this. So maybe you guys want to, you might want to say something. He's like, I don't know. We'd have to check with the lawyers because obviously this is an ongoing investigation. And I said, all right, well, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know how retail feels because I see it all the time on the Discord. And so I did at least bring it up with him. So, all right. Anyone else? And I am trying to at least get a full understanding of, because I think the insider shares that will be added, from what I understand, I don't know if they all count right away because technically they're not fully vested yet. Each year they get basically 33% over a course of 3 years if they're 3-year vestments. So I don't know how that works totally as far as like, I think they all count towards the shares outstanding, but they don't actually like get locked up. So it's a bit weird as far as that goes. But I'll double check with them and just see how that affects the float. But those will be counted towards insiders, so that won't change the free float at all because those shares can't be traded. So, all right. Anyone else got anything good? You guys want to talk about anything? At some point, Reed asks, at some point, do they have to let off this, or do they just try to short this to get it delisted? I mean, that's they're going to be. I mean, they've got a perfect market condition right now. Like, you have literally one of the largest stock sell-offs in like history happening right now, and you happen to be short on a stock, right? That's a pretty good recipe for them. The question is, if retail just continues to accumulate and buy down at these low levels, does this cause a problem for them in the future? Like, my guess would be yes, because retail is locking up a ton of shares that they're going long on, and it doesn't really matter. They can throw all the fundamentals that people don't seem to be caring about that. They want to see the stock go up, and if that requires them buying more shares, then that's what they're doing. And so, their goal is going to be to get it delisted. Like, they're already profitable. Like, they are profitable off Aterian. Now, if they start reshorting and shorting more in the twos, that's pretty bold. And like, there's a limit to how much they can do that, because if you go even further that way, it gets a lot more dangerous, because if you start dropping it into like the below 2, for example, you're then looking at a chance for, something unexpected happening. Like, there could be an influx of buying from an institution or a large group of retailers, or in some cases, you could also have trying to think, the company technically could issue a share buyback to really mess, because you have to remember, they sold these things for like $290 and $310, right? But if the stock drops to like 1 something, they could technically do a share buyback and really put the screws into the shorts, because that's something that would be super unexpected. Like, nobody expects Aterian to do something like that. And if they did that, that would literally put the screws into the shorts really hard, because now they've got a huge choice to make, because they're running their shares, the short, are all of a sudden gone because the company bought them back, and they're not giving them back out. They're not going to lend them to the shorts again. And so that's what happened to GameStop. All of a sudden, FDs started piling up because the broker just didn't have enough shares, because they were floating a bunch of the shares. And here's the honest truth about Aterian. Aterian has been very illiquid. Like, you don't have a ton of liquidity. There's not a ton of shares just floating out there for Aterian. That can be shown just by looking at the short data. And if you look at the utilization, it's been at 100% since March 8th, which was like 90-something days ago. And it would be like, I don't know, like 60 or 70 trading days, something like that. Maybe 70 trading days. So, yeah. Can we stay above 250 this week? If we stay above 250, that'd be a win in my book, because we're not getting a ton of volume and the entire market's falling apart. So that would be a very big thing if Aterian could just stay above 250. That'd be like a small moral victory, because they're going to try to get it down to 210 again. Like, that's their goal. Like, the algo is probably already set for 210 to retest that area and see what happens, and maybe even break it. Like, that's the goal. Is there any reason they can't do a share buyback? Any conditions in their financing? They should 100% announce a share back. So here's the problem. So Aterian sold those shares because they needed cash. So if Aterian decides that, okay, we're going to buy back our shares, you just got into the same predicament, which is that you spent money that they're going to need money again, because they borrowed this cash because they needed the cash to just hold on to make sure they had enough, ammo to weather the storm. So the problem with the share buyback at these levels is, essentially they need the cash probably more than they need to, buy up shares to stick it to the shorts. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing that stops them from doing it down here, but at the same time, there's also incentive not to do it because they need the cash at this point right now, unless they all of a sudden get really great, deals on the shipping containers again, and then the cost to do business actually starts going down again. Like the COGS goes down, then you'll look at, possibly an improvement there. And I did see that Biden's really starting to push this bill that would basically start eyeing what these guys that ship from Asia to the U.S. There was 9 conglomerate companies that basically banded together and raised the prices collectively. So they basically had a monopoly on this. And I think Biden and his transport or whatever commerce person went out and were like, listen, we recognize this is a problem and it's causing pain on the Americans because it's making everything more expensive. So if you want to do business with the United States, if we pass this law, we're going to be able to basically band together and say, you want to charge that much? We're not going to use you guys. We'll find somebody else, and ban them from doing business with the U.S. So they can either play ball or they can, and that's essentially what they do with healthcare. So, but yeah, that would help out tremendously if they could get the shipping costs down a lot. That means it won't be as expensive, and that was one of their biggest things was the shipping containers went from $3,000 a container to $30,000 a container, and that's 1,000% increase. So, anything else, guys? I normally shut them off around now. I know it was a rough market day, but maybe you guys get some good sleep and don't watch tomorrow. Just close your eyes and hope for the best, all right? Just go start your weekend early. Shipping costs are coming down, but so is consumer discretionary spending. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be, once again, if they can get the items cheaper, though, and I know they've been working on their margins, so it's just chicken and egg. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. But, yeah, let's try to make sure that, competition creates competitive prices. Yeah, and that's part of the problem is when all the competition bands together and says, we're going to raise our rates X amount, and you don't have any choice. Essentially, that's what's happened. I'm watching. All right. Thanks for the hard work. Yeah, I was going to say, and I'll try to make sure I jump on tomorrow at some point if I can. I know it's a Friday, so... but if the wife goes to sleep early, then I'll probably come down and have some drinks with you guys, and we can talk about the week. And hopefully, if you want, we'll do a longer session, and maybe we can do some DD together, and I can Bitcoin's fighting to stay above 20K. Yeah, I was eyeing to buy the dip, and I don't know if it was you, Tom, or somebody else. Somebody basically wrote me and was like, "Don't buy it now. Wait till there's different signals, I guess." But he said I think 1,700 was the price target, 16 or 1,700 I think was the price target on Bitcoin before it slows down. It was you, okay? That was you, Tom. Yeah. So I was gonna say you told me to wait, and I'm glad I did because I think I was looking at it at 22,000, and now it's at 20. So yeah, I'll wait a little bit longer. You tell me when to buy coins because that's not my area of specialty. I just typically do stocks, and I will just buy some crypto here and there. Oh, you didn't say a target. Somebody else told me a target. They said that they were looking at Bitcoin around, I think it was 16 or 17,000, and that's when they think the bottom is. Yeah, not financial advice, obviously. I have no idea. Especially, don't listen to me about anything on crypto. Like, I just buy stuff, and I don't even know when I'm buying it. I don't even understand the wallets. Like, straight up, like, I bought some Loop Ring coin, and everyone's like, transfer to your wallet. I'm like, what wallet? Like, I don't know what the digital wallet is. Like, I don't even remember my password to, like, some of my crypto. Like, I had some crypto that was, like, stored away in, like, I don't know, some, like, Fox thing, and it, like, I don't remember the password now, and I'm like, I don't know how much money's in there because I can't log into it. They were, like, write down these codes, and I lost that paper, and I'm like, pretty sure I just lost a couple $1,000s of crypto because it should have, like, a secondary thing. But, yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants to talk about that kind of stuff, please feel free to tell me about that. Just finished work. Have you gone over Redbox and the options being disabled? Yeah, I kind of covered that, but I'll do it just one last time because I know some people are just getting in now. All right, so just to show you guys, not DTC, I'm having a brain fart. Redbox. Okay. So what I was telling people was, if you look here, we didn't fill that gap today. Like, they left a gap here, and it hasn't filled yet. So what I would be looking for tomorrow is for them to fill this gap right here. It's not very big, and so I would see them run up at some point tomorrow, maybe into the 12-13 range to close this gap here at 1360s, maybe 70, something like that. Anyway, what we would do then after that, I think they basically are screwing over retail. I think, now granted, they're at least doing it a little more fair because they didn't just disable one side. You can't buy puts on this either. So they're not letting people buy puts, and they're not letting people buy calls anymore. So they've just disabled options altogether. But what that's going to do is it's going to take away some of the gamma on both sides. So, like, the gamma squeeze was super important to Redbox, and right now you can already see the volume starting to die down. Like, they were starting to really stick it to, like, the Redbox shorts, and I think this is giving Redbox shorts an opportunity to kind of weasel their way out. Now, they're still going to lose money on this, is my guess, if they're covering up here, but at the same time, if I crack it, I'll give you half back. Yeah, let me try, make sure I can find this paper first. It's somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, so I do think we will see a move upwards and fill this gap here. And then after that, I kind of expect it to dump. And I know other people are like, no, it can't happen. But, like, it sounds like they're stacking the deck against this thing. They don't want it to run. Because if you get, a heavy sell-off, at some point retail does break. Let's be honest. So they are stopping the Redbox squeeze and trying to send a message that squeeze plays can be shut down at the whim of the brokers. Yeah. That's essential. I don't think that's the intended thing, but basically the brokers are the ones that are not the brokers. So you guys have to remember this. I told you brokers are not the good guys. I told you that earlier in the day when I started this. But I'm telling you again, the brokers are the bad guys. The brokers are not on your side. The brokers want you to lose money. Because if you lose money, they make more. And that's a pure and simple fact that when you allow brokers to not operate as like an independent third party that's just executing and making off bid ask, but they also get to keep when you lose money, that's not a recipe for success for retail traders. You've incentivized the brokers to basically screw over retail. You aren't their customers. You are their money, and they're like cash cows, and they squeeze you when they can. They're making money on slippage. They're making money on your bid-ask spread, and they're also making money on when you buy something and then you sell for a loss, and they didn't buy the position until you close. that they're making money on that too. Hang on. Will Aterian be the beneficiary of the upcoming OPEX? I don't know. I was going to say at this point right now, I'm not counting on it. I'm guessing tomorrow is going to be a struggle for 250. Yeah. I mean that's kind of where I see things tomorrow. It's OPEX, and then like on the monthly for next month would be what I'm noticing now is there seems to be a lot of interest getting stacked up further out. Like the 2024s, the 2023s, stuff like that. You should be really good at crypto, bro. Read the charts. It's more technical. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. It's not something I typically sit there and, like, I watch every tick. And what makes you think if the squeezes are possible? I mean, they're going to fight this every which way. And I'm not talking about just Aterian or Redbox or GameStop and AMC are a problem. And I told you guys I didn't think that they would let either one of these mow ass. I think they may let them go up, but I think that these guys are trying to basically... I mean, if you look at this, it almost looks like a huge just wedge coming to an end soon, right? Like if you drew lines out to like from the bottoms and like, I don't know. I think something big's gonna happen. I just don't know what it is yet. But they're trying their very hardest to keep these things down. Brokers are not the ones removing options. It's the exchanges. The reason why they removed the call options from Redbox is because the NASDAQ miscalculated the float. Partly true. So the brokers are typically the ones who are failing to deliver. Okay, and that's actually fair. Many Latino. You're right, because if you have a small, tiny float, it doesn't meet the requirements to have call options, which is why they removed it. Yeah, like that makes total sense to me. But at the same time, the brokers are still not the good guys. I don't think you'll disagree with me on that. The brokers, in this case, I'm trying to think how best to describe it. Whenever they can make money off you, and they do, you're their personal piggy bank. Like, and when I say this, they will often sell you more shares than are actually available, because. And this is going to market makers too. Like this is part of the problem is just systematically, like there's huge problems with all these stocks, and like all these meme stocks. When retail gets interested in them and they don't want to sell them, they end up selling more shares. Oftentimes, like Aterian during its run up, I'll show you this. During this run up right here, pretty much every single major brokerage was missing literally millions of shares, like they were literally reporting like 1 million shares failing to deliver during this run-up. So, I mean, that's not a good thing. Like that means, and the Aterians even acknowledges. The Aterian was like talking to their lawyers and saying, these brokers are literally just selling more shares than exist. And then they're just sitting on FTDs until their dilution comes. And that's what essentially happened, which was instead of allowing the stock to actually move where it should for natural price discovery, they allowed FTDs to just pile up during this entire range, right? And then when the private placement shares finally hit, they actually were able to get stuff and reset FTDs. And they keep doing this. Like, it happens all the time. So instead of actual price discovery and this going up to like maybe 10, 12, like it probably should have, they basically started a naked shorting because they sold shares they didn't have. And then eventually when this, the private placement shares hit, they were able to get those and reset all those FTDs. But during that time, those brokers were the ones that naked short. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. TD's also not great. TD's my broker, and they're fine, but like, TD screwed me over many times. Yeah, this market is rigged, and it doesn't feel good. And honestly, like, retail investors should be sharpening their pitchforks and getting those those flame or your torches out. So you need your pitchfork and your torches. And honestly, like, this stuff is upsetting, and it should be upsetting for people because I mean, just the simple stuff like allowing that much, like, 8-cent slippage, like, that should never happen in this day and age. Like, that, that's this payment for order flow. It's not good. It's not healthy, and it doesn't create price discovery. Like, okay, it's all over Twitter. Matt Kors has a video on his YouTube channel. NASDAQ didn't misquote doo-doo. It's called corruption. Yeah, I mean, I understand what Manny Latino is saying. He's basically saying that they should never have had options because they had a tiny float, and so they shouldn't have ever had options to begin with. And once they said, oh, well, this is a problem, because they were allowing it to happen because they were making money off it, but then they lost control of it. Now it's a problem. Like, it was, if this has been, their float has been this way for a while. So, like, and actually, if I remember correctly, they didn't used to have options. They opened options on them somewhat recently, if I remember correctly. Because I think at one point I looked at Redbox and I thought they didn't have any options. Can someone confirm that? I just want to double check. I've stayed now longer than I told you guys I would, but you guys got me interested in something. So, all right. So, does anyone remember Redbox back in the day? I believe they opened options back in this. I'm in the wrong ticker, but I thought they opened options somewhere in this time frame, like somewhere around here. And then early April they didn't have options. So, like, here they didn't have options. They opened options, and then they had this run up, then the dump off. And I thought that they were. You're right. Yeah, so they basically allowed options until they lost control, and now nobody's allowed to play with them. But they were allowed to make money during this time. It was around April, May. Yeah, so basically sometime around here. Well, guess what? When the price moved, yeah. So, what I'm saying is, brokers and money market makers wanted to provide options on this because it was going to make them more money. They knew the float hasn't changed. But I remember saying, this thing's never going to squeeze. It doesn't even have options. And then they opened options on them. And I was like, well, they still have the warrants. And then when the merger news came out, they canceled the warrants, or at least postponed them or suspended them. And I was like, well, now it's on like Donkey Kong for this thing. But I said, I'm going to be buying like puts on this thing because I think at some point they're just going to rug pull. And once retail wins, they change the rules. Like, and that happened with GameStop. GameStop, that day that we were running up to 500 and everybody was getting margin called and the entire market was tanking while this was happening, retail had finally won against the big guys. And you know what they did? They took the ball that we were playing with and they freaking popped it and then took it and said nobody can play, and they walked out, and technically they won because of that. As far as like the immediate battle, like they won, like they stopped the squeeze and they pretended like that was normal. Like, I've been trading a long time. I've never seen them turn off the buy side on anything. Like on like OTC, like over the counter, like small cap, like or not even small, like pink slip stuff. I've seen it happen before. I've never seen it on a publicly traded stock. Like, that is crazy. Yeah, like Aterian stock is like in calls are super cheap. You can get tons of theta for like super cheap. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, at some point, somebody's going to be smart and just rip up and buy all this stuff, and then shorts are going to be in trouble. But, in the meantime, everyone's scared of, anything at this point. But that is like, because all this stuff is, feels risky right now because the entire market's just dumping every single day, it seems like. It doesn't seem like they're letting anyone up for air. Then you'll have like little reprieves here and there, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe things are okay, and then they just dump it more. And that's typically what happens. Like, we had that little reprieve, what was last week or whatever, and then boom, just right back down. That was the dead cat bounce on the SPY. So, but yeah, like, if you look at Aterian's options, the cheaper they get, somebody's going to walk through here and go, oh, interesting. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm in total agreement with you guys. The entire market's rigged, but it's the only one we got right now that we can really trade on. So we got to basically do our best to try to make money and try to figure out ways of, finding things early before they get out of hand. Because obviously you can see what happens when things get out of hand. They lose control. They change the rules of the game. Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you remember, Apesma, like, people were talking about each share being $1 million of, all these stocks. Like, literally, they were like, yeah, every stock is going to be worth $1 million. There's going to be, they're going to pay it all. That's what we were told. And, at this point right now, I don't believe that. Like, I think at some point they'd shut it off. Because you can see, like, they are not afraid of changing the rules. And because of that, like, in the beginning, I was like, no, they wouldn't change the rules. I've now watched them change the rules on so many different tickers. Yeah, so. But yeah, if you can drop a like, that'd be great. And if you haven't subscribed, if you want to subscribe, that'd be great too. But yeah, anything else anyone wants to talk about? You guys help me longer. I was going to get off at 11, and now it's like 11:20. You got me 20 minutes extra. Okay, would it be smart to load up some Aterian calls expiring 6 to 12 months because of the theta decay? Theta decay doesn't really affect calls when they're that far away. Yeah, you're the only thing that changes at that point is your delta and the gamma, typically, Danny. So, like, if you buy, like, for example, 2024s, your time value doesn't change a whole lot in that time until it gets closer to expiry. So theta will be very safe in that case. The only thing you're looking at then is, like, like I was buying 2024 $2.50 calls for like $1.22 the other day. So, do you have any other plays I'm looking at? Yeah, there's a couple that I've looked at. I mean, DTC is one just because I think they're, like, undervalued, and, like, they do have price targets that are in the 12 to, like, 20 range. And they've been just absolutely beat down. So I think at some point we're going to see a bounce on them. I mean, look at this chart. It's a falling knife. It IPO'd, and then it's just gone straight down. Like, so at some point they're going to have a reversal, and we're hitting the oversold again. So I do think a reversal's coming, My guess, though, is it's not going to be until next week after options expiry. So there was a bunch of options that were bought during this run-up, and I think the market maker just decided to screw over all those people, myself included, on these. And so they're basically just pushing it back down to burn out as many of these as they can, and then they'll allow it to go back up, is my guess. So, yeah, DTC is one that I'm looking at. HUSA, there's another one that I've been eyeing. They're going through right now a bearish trend, but I was going to say these guys have a tiny float, and it seems like there's still like a gamma ramp on this one. So I do think there's going to be something going on with this. If they can get this over 6, that would be huge for them. And it's, oil, I think at some point is going to get sticky, and I would expect, I think they're cash positive, so I don't think they have as many like warts on this one as some of the other ones. What are you expecting during triple witching? I mean, honestly, every time I've heard people make a big deal of triple witching, nothing ever happens. Like, he got to the point where I don't think anything really big happens on triple witching or quadruple witching, whatever you want. Anyone looking at GMVD? It's being talked about from Hoop Money and True. As True Demon, yeah. I like True and I like Hoot. I like both those guys. I've talked to them offline before. Lots of short exempt, kind of like Mullen. The only thing I want to see then is there cashless warrants, or is there something going on with that? So GMVD. I mean, obviously, the stock is up 10%, went down 7% after, almost 8% after hours. But it is going through something. Now, they're going to have to get the stock up to get it to avoid delisting it. The question is, the CEO and CFO loaded up like $100K worth of DTC shares. And all right, let's see something real quick. Get my buddy Sean over at Dilution Tracker. If you guys are interested in their product, they do have a great product. I give him a free plug because he's been answering questions of mine. So we'll check out GMVD. Okay, cash need medium. They got about a little under 2 years worth of cash left. They do have warrants at $1.50 though. Ooh, I don't like that. And it's through Armistice. So they're the same ones that lent out and gave pipe warrants to Aterian. So I think HUSA's up so much because they are essentially a short squeeze play. Laugh out loud, Jesus, I don't want to know about the warrants. Yeah, there are warrants. So you've got 6.25 million warrants at $1.50. So what you'll see is they're going to try to get this up to about $1.50 so they can unlock some of those warrants. The underwriter is AGP. So what my guess would be is they also have another. So there's a total of like 8 million warrants at $1.50. And so what you'll probably see is they'll try to pump it to those levels because that's where they can unlock those warrants and they can cash out if they want to. So I could see them running up to at least those warrant levels before, going back down. So do microcap squeeze setups listen to a bleeding SPY, or do they have to behave independent of recession? Their algo is going to fight against you, but it is what it is. And I do remember a while ago you were showing us where to find info about the warrants. Yeah, if you want to do it for free, you can go to the EGR system on the SEC website. And then if you want to pay for it, Sean did give us a discount. I think it's like 20% off or something like that for anyone that has the, if you want to do it easier and don't have to, do all the digging yourself, you can pay for a subscription of theirs. And I don't know how much it is offhand, but I do have a discount code if you need it. Just DM me in the Discord and I'll give it to you. Because honestly, I don't have it on me right now. But his website's called dilutiontracker.com. And they make it a lot easier because you don't have to they make it presentable and you can see what it looks like. But if not, if you want to do it by manually, what you do is you go to EGR on the SEC website, type in your ticker, and then once you pull up like a 10Q or a 10K, hit Control F for find, and then just type in warrant, and then you'll see all the warrants that come up if they are any. So, all right, guys, you guys held me here till 11:30. You got an extra 30 minutes at me because I started late. So, all right, you guys have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, the SPY bounces and everybody's happier. And then maybe we melt up in the end of the day and people are woo-wooing, and maybe MOAS happens tomorrow and everyone will be a lot happier. But you guys have a great evening. If you're not part of the Discord, please go ahead and subscribe. It's free. Join in, hang out with us. I'm part of a lot of different Discords too. So here you go. That's the link for it. If you are not part of it, please join us and come hang out. I'm getting tired, so I'm repeating myself. And yeah, MOAS. Yeah, let's get the MOAS. That'd be good, right? All right, guys. Evening.